After 10 long years locked away in an intergalactic prison, John stepped foot on Earth for the first time since his incarceration. As he walked the familiar streets of his hometown, it quickly became apparent that this was not the Earth he remembered. Strange smells and languages assaulted his senses from every direction. Bizarre technologies and buildings he did not recognize lined the roads, and the faces, so many unfamiliar faces crowding the sidewalks. Hardly any humans were visible in the sea of exotic alien species that now called Earth home. John felt like a stranger in his own city. Everything had changed so much in a decade. Earth was now a bustling intergalactic port, a stopping point for travelers across the cosmos to refuel their ships, trade goods, and experience human culture. The solitude and isolation of the past 10 years suddenly came crashing down on John as he struggled to process this new reality. Out of the corner of his eye, John spotted a group of Rigelians watching him. He immediately recognized the green scales and dorsal fins that characterized the amphibious humanoids from the planet HFY. The group of Rigelians whispered among themselves, pointing and sneering at John. "What a pathetic creature," one of them said in fluent English. "So small and weak-looking compared to us." The leader, who stood a full head taller than the rest, let out a dismissive laugh. Typical, primitive ape man. No wonder they locked him away for so long. John's hands slowly curled into fists as hot anger rose inside of him. After years bottled up alone, his temper was like a powder keg ready to blow. He called out to the Rigelians, "You want to say that to my face?" The leader turned and looked John up and down with contempt. "We were just commenting on your puny size and inadequate strength compared to a superior Rigelian like myself." He flexed his muscular arms to emphasize his point. John stepped forward and stared straight into the leader's bulbous black eyes. "Why don't you put your money where your big mouth is then? I challenge you to a fight right here and now." The Rigelians exchanged stunned glances, then burst out laughing. The leader grinned, showing a mouth full of small, jagged teeth. "You must have a death wish, human. I accept your challenge. It will be amusing to put you in your place." A small crowd had gathered around the confrontation, eager to see what would happen next. John rolled up his sleeves, never taking his eyes off the Rigelian leader. After years pent up in prison with no outlet, he almost welcomed this fight. Cracking his knuckles, John said, "I'm going to make you eat those words." Word of the confrontation between John and the Rigelian leader spread rapidly through the streets. A large crowd gathered in a circle around the two as they prepared to fight. Aliens jostled for a view, curious to see the outcome between the human and the arrogant Rigelian. John shrugged off his jacket, revealing lean, muscular arms etched with scars from his years in prison. Though thinner than the bulky Rigelian, John's body was all wiry strength and precision, honed from countless fights inside the prison walls. He bounced lightly on the balls of his feet, limbering up for the impending brawl. The Rigelian leader towered over John, snarling and snapping his jaws aggressively. But John showed no fear in the face of the alien's intimidation tactics. He kept his face emotionless, his eyes cold and calculating. Without warning, the Rigelian charged forward, attempting to tackle John. But John neatly sidestepped the attack, using the alien's own momentum against him to send him crashing violently to the pavement. The crowd gasped in surprise at John's speed and reflexes. The Rigelian leader picked himself up, an expression of shock on his scaly face. Clearly, he had underestimated the human's abilities. He attacked again, attempting to grapple John in his muscular arms. But John ducked and weaved gracefully, raining sharp, precise blows on the alien's pressure points, the back of the knees, under the arms, and along the gills. The Rigelian bellowed in pain and outrage. No one had ever landed hits on him in combat before. He came at John again and again, but each time John evaded his grasp, moving fluidly like water around rock. A series of cracks rang out as John delivered devastating strikes directly to the alien's joints, exploiting the weaknesses in Rigelian anatomy. Finally, the battered and bruised Rigelian collapsed to his knees, wheezing. The arrogance had drained completely from his face, replaced by disbelief and shame at being bested by this unassuming human. The crowd of onlookers cheered wildly, chanting John's name. John stepped forward and grabbed the Rigelian leader by his throat. His eyes were as hard and pitiless as granite. "Let this be a lesson to you," John said in a low, dangerous tone. "Don't underestimate humans. We're more resilient than you think." He tightened his grip slightly, causing the Rigelian to gag. "Now get out of here before I finish the job." John roughly released his hold and watched impassively as the alien scrabbled away in terror. Turning slowly, John surveyed the crowd around him. The thrill of victory coursed through his veins, making him feel alive again for the first time in years. The other aliens glanced away nervously under his intense stare. Without another word, John retrieved his jacket and disappeared into the city streets. Word of his skill and ruthless manner spread rapidly through the alien communities overnight. After this confrontation, few would dare look down on humanity again. John had taught them the hard lesson: underestimate humans at your own peril. After his confrontation with the Rigelian went viral, John kept a low profile as he tried to adjust to this new version of Earth. He ventured to a seedy alien bar on the outskirts of town, hoping to gather intel on the intergalactic underworld now taking root on his home planet. The bar was dingy and dim, filled with a rough-looking clientele from across the galaxy. In the back corner, John spotted a table of Tellurians laughing loudly. The elephantine aliens dwarfed the other patrons with their huge size. John also noticed a beautiful female Arcturian sitting alone at the bar, her blue skin and tentacled hair standing out in the grimy surroundings. John ordered a drink and took a seat, keeping one eye on the rowdy Tellurians. Suddenly, the bartender, a four-armed Grulin, changed the video screen above the bar. It showed footage from John's fight with the Rigelian leader the day before. "That human is crazy to take on a Rigelian unarmed," the Grulin chuckled. The Arcturian woman glanced up with interest as the fight played out. When it finished, she turned to John. "That was you yesterday?" she asked. John nodded, wary of her intentions. "I'm Alina," she said with a smile. "That was very impressive. Rigelians are known as some of the best fighters in the galaxy." "I manage all right," John said gruffly, uncomfortable with praise after so long alone. "You must have had some exceptional training to develop skills like that," Alina continued. John hesitated, then decided to open up, sensing a kindred spirit in Alina. They chatted for hours, bonding over stories of their homeworlds. John found himself telling Alina things he had never shared with anyone. For the first time since returning, he didn't feel so alone. Suddenly, the front door burst open and a group of massive Tellurians barged in. John immediately recognized their leader. It was the same Rigelian he had humiliated the day before. Cold rage burned inside John as he realized this was a setup. The Rigelian and Tellurians fanned out wielding menacing alien weapons. Patrons screamed and fled. The Rigelian leader pointed at John. "The human is mine. Do what you want with the others," he growled. Chaos erupted as the Tellurians opened fire. John grabbed Alina and dove behind the bar, protecting her with his body. Adrenaline flooded his veins. It was just like the prison riots. John's mind switched to survival mode, calmly assessing the situation with icy focus. "Wait here," he whispered to Alina, then leapt into action. Moving with practiced precision between energy blasts, John disarmed one Tellurian and used his giant body as a shield to charge the others. He was a blur of punches and kicks, systematically taking down aliens twice his size. The Rigelian leader fled in terror, seeing his ambush fall apart. When the smoke cleared, John stood surrounded by the unconscious bodies of his would-be assassins. Alina emerged shaken but unharmed. She gazed at John with new understanding and respect at his skills, honed from years enduring the most lawless place in the galaxy.